Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Family EV podcast with just me right now, regular EV Dad John. I hope you're well. Joe has some personal things going on, so he might not make it today. But if he does, he'll just magically appear and we'll just pretend nothing ever happened. I hope you're well. I hope you're well. Today, with Joe not here, I thought I would just talk about a couple of things that are going on in the world, which I personally find interesting, and I hope you find interesting. Um, Talk about the podcast itself and what we plan on doing with it, and then I may end up creating a part two to this week's podcast where we talk about something that might happen. So, anyway, there's a huge amount to cover, and we're going to try and keep it short and sweet. So, let's talk about the ID4. Huge surprise, still no OTA update. There was a thing about OTA updates, but it would appear that, from sounds of it, might be some cars that had been on a dealer's lot and not a real thing. But now we're seeing news announcements about a 7 to 8% range improvement on the 2022 model, all of which seems to be software derived. So we'll see what happens. It would be nice to get a charging peak, go up to 135. I think we were all expecting more. I think we are going to get more, but it's going to come through the ability to buy faster charging. I haven't worked how I feel about that. I really haven't. The one thing I keep in mind is that I paid $43,500 for my car, as opposed to 60,000, I think, is the because Joe's not here and I didn't do the same amount of preparation I normally do for these things. But yeah, if I went to buy a Model Y, order now, the cheapest brand new Model Y is $60,000. So $58,990 versus $44,000, $45,000 thereabouts, and you still get $7,500 in tax credits. Time has money, but I'd have to spend a lot of time at a charger. And as we found out on our run down to Pasadena, I know the hair, it needs cutting. It's been a crazy week, and I'll come to that in a minute. It involves Ukraine. Oh, I'm sorry, and so it's 60,000. So no, that's without the destination charges. So yeah, it's $61,000 straight. It just isn't the value proposition isn't there for me and my family. And it's got a smaller, it's got a less usable trunk than the ID4. Our family situation says the ID4 is great. And as has been said before, top line charging speed isn't as important as the below the line. So it's not how hard can it charge, it's how long can it do that for? How much does it put in over a given amount of time? And we realized this on the trip back from Pasadena, which we talked about on the last podcast. We only actually had to charge once. I put a little micro charge in while we ran into Walmart, 7 minutes of charge. But, Pasadena was basically, should have been a single, either a 35-minute stop or a 20 and a 10, something like that. Trying to help my wife understand how you get more charging at the beginning. It's a communication thing. But I'm looking at other cars right now. I'll come on to that, I'm sure. And I'm just, having a think. So, yeah, it's been an interesting time thinking about these things, but I'm still quite happy. A lot of ID4's been, we'll see what happens when we get the new software, if there were any physical differences with the 2022 model. Because as they're talking about this, and I'm watching my Airedale running around the front yard with the 5-year-old chasing him, she's wearing her grooming stuff. Is rather amusing. It's very cute. And he just came back to her. He's such a good boy. The chaos is real. And by the way, sorry if you see me bouncing up and down. My laptop is on a springy thing, and it tends to bounce. It is, we'll see if there's any physical differences other than the ones being in America with the bigger cup holders, the new center console. We'll see. But at this point, I'm just resigned to things not changing. And if they do change, it'd be good. If it goes to 135, the question is, how long does it stay there? If it's just 135 to 40%, where the current drop off is, what we call the big chunk, then that's going to be 12 minutes. It's not going to make a big difference. It's going to take a minute and a minute and a half off the 0 to 40, which is, we'll see. Lots going on in the world right now as we record this. Rivian's actually, as I'm doing this, because this wasn't on my thing and I had a Chrome browser, Rivian have announced made some announcements about pricing. The smaller battery, so dual motor and small battery ones. The truck will have a base of single motor of 67.5, and the dual will come in at 70 before any incentives. And that seems interesting, but deliveries aren't expected until 2024. Elon was right. Design and prototyping easy, manufacturing is hard. Now, what's interesting is that these prices are what they were talking to reservation holders about, the quad motor pricing. So clearly they're not going back to the reservation holders and saying it's going to cost you more. But if you're new to it, then you are going to be paying a premium. It still looks like pretty good value to me, I will say. But these things are, you may feel differently. But the SUV, that is getting the S, that is getting, I think that's getting a near 20% increase. So that will go, the base version goes from $70,000 to $84,000. And the cost of options and upgrades and accessories has been increased as well. So, and I apologize. This is being applied to reservation holders. So, yeah, given the fact that they only put out, Joe and I talked about it a little while ago, a couple of 100 units before the end of the year. They're still having ramping issues. Yeah, this is going to be a bigger issue. Now they've got the smaller version. I don't know about this. The smaller pack's going to be good for 260 miles. The max pack is going to be for 400 miles. You have to have a dual motor to even have an option of the three. Yeah, I think if you're spending that kind of money, you're just going to buy the biggest battery. Remember when Tesla had, that's not making the hair any better, is it? Not sure why my phone decided to start playing music. And so you're losing a year and you're going to have to pay $15,000 extra ballpark. Well, it's a capitalist market. You get to choose. I'll stop playing with the hair. I know it's not getting better. It just needs to get cut off. But there's more than just Rivian going on. And we're seeing some great, sad news. First of all, that big truck, the ship sank that was carrying the Audis and the Taycans and the ID4s. So there's going to be a bit of a setback, but that's huge. That apparently it had everything on it: Taycans, Audi GTs, ID4s. This is, that's going to be a situation. Not only that, a lot of components for Volkswagens and Audis and come from the Ukraine. So apparently they are halting production. So this is, you know, it's a first world problem. Don't get me wrong. I do want to talk about something near and dear to my heart. So what you might, I think if you don't know, you should know, or if you've not picked this up, I know I've spoken about it on, maybe not on the podcast, on regular EV Dad, when I used to do the Green Glow chats. So I'm a cybersecurity professional when I'm not doing this, as well as a stand-up comedian. Yes, I have many lives. I'm doing them all at once. I have been heavily involved with the Ukraine situation. Has had an impact on my life insofar as I've had to pivot my entire business around it, both as a freelancer, and I don't talk about that, but I'm on the good guy side on this one. And also what I do for the company I work for is that head of marketing. I've just started a whole threat intelligence briefing for people that aren't customers, giving them a heads up of, you know, what the potential ramifications are. And oh Lordy, this fills my heart with joy. I'll see if I can find it. But so CCS chargers, there's a company, and I haven't verified this to my usual level, but I believe it to be true. There's a CCS charger in network, and all their operations, a lot of the design and manufacturing and operations were run from the Ukraine. And not only have they taken down the charging network, but they've also changed the messages. So it says things like Putin is a Richard, for want of a word, and numerous other things. OT, operational technology, and ICS, we call control systems, are a target in this world. We have two kinds of non-conventional warfare these days, which is good, by the way. It's good. I mean, it's not good, but it's better. Non-conventional warfare typically means nuclear weapons. And none of us are going to get through that unscathed. But OT has been an increasingly used range for the past couple of years. That moment when you know, I'm going to leave the pause in there because the recording thing had gone away. Zoom's made a change, so I didn't know I was recording, which is hilarious. OT is a new thing, and I refer to it as the weapon of mass disruption. I put another disruption in there because the cat got trapped in my office. It was bouncing around over there. That's also a weapon of mass distraction and disruption. Critical infrastructure, water plants, oil pipelines, meatpacking plants, those are attacks that took place in the United States in the past 6 months. Peloton. Those are, you know, someone exposed your actual real post-COVID weight. By the way, if you haven't noticed, a little bit skinnier. We're working on it. Hit a milestone this morning, so quite happy about that. Yeah, we're seeing this in this world as well. So more to watch. I will actually be speaking at a renewable energy conference on Tuesday next week. So the podcast will be on a different day. Don't know what. I need to speak to Joe about that. But I'm actually going to be in San Diego. I'm traveling on Tuesday. I'm speaking on Wednesday. I'll have to work it out. But yeah, I'm actually speaking at a conference on that very topic next week. In fact, I have to finish my slides tomorrow for that. But these are interesting times. These are interesting times. What else was I wanting to talk about that had been in the news that I found interesting? Tesla potentially seeking federal funds to open the supercharger network. I find that interesting. Obviously, there's the issue of the supercharger connector, the fact that they never adopted CCS here as they did in Europe, and at a point where they could give enough people adapters to solve the problem, but move forward. There is $7.5 billion available for charging infrastructure development and deployment. It is, so we'll have to see. We know they've made the changes in the app and things like that. Of course, California would be a pain in the ass because we now insist that you have to have displays, and that's not how Tesla does things, and yada yada yada. It is if they offer rebates for adapters, I don't know. Let's see what happens. This could, it's good to have options. It would also be nice for them to have a proper CCS adapter like they do in Korea over here. So, I don't. My concern is Standard Oil. I commented. We pulled off in somewhere down south, past Santa Barbara. I can't remember what it was. There's a Chevron gas station. It was the only gas station around there, and they're actually building an Electrify America charger right across. It was up. It just wasn't operational. My worry is that we end up in a Standard Oil situation, and we end up with monopolies, Electrify America and Tesla. And investors love them, by the way, because it creates a moat. Warren Buffett's spoken about this. So I don't have a fully rationalized thing. I don't think EVgo is going to be a big enough competitor. I don't think they can raise money. Money is what makes things happen. That's the arms race. As well as deploy. Then you've got who's going to get the best sites. What are the best sites? Because you're looking at different markets. You're looking at, sorry, I'm in war brain for the other thing I'm doing. Civilian centers, I mean urban areas. Whole Foods and Walmarts are great. They tend to be outside. Oh, look, we have Joe. We've got Joe's audio. Oh, we've got Joe. Joe, we were already recording. Say hi.
Hello. Sorry for the delay.
That's absolutely fine. I said I might split this into two anyway. So, and they're finding this out in real time. So what I was going to do is I'm kind of doing what we normally do. And then I said I might do a second part where we talk about the thing, the Salt Lake thing, but I will pause the recording before, or we'll do it as a fresh recording. So anyway, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I pretty much covered it. So let me finish the news and then we'll talk about Ohio. Okay, because I think that's and that's a thing. And then I'll quickly think. So it's been an interesting. Stellantis is going to go all EV by 2026 or electric by 2026. Stellantis is Fiat, Chrysler, chunk of Ferrari, a few other bits and pieces, Jeep. So we'll see how that comes in. Something I'm not focused on, and we don't talk about too much. Cummins has acquired Meritor. Meritor does a lot of powertrain stuff. So this is again, electrification hitting up and down the travel stack. Lucid only going to do 125, only did 125 cars last year. From what I can tell, most of them are here in the Bay Area because I'm seeing them all the time. And I did just see a Rivian delivery truck, Joe, the other night. I didn't take a picture of it because it was really late. Actually, I'll tell you, it was so late. I was driving back from the club, which makes me sound young, but this was the comedy club and I'm still middle-aged, on Sunday night. And I was driving down 101 and you know what? It looks like a really big Rivian truck. I mean, it's just they've got a brand identity about them, that's for sure. And what was I had one last thing, and I wanted to, I think before we get, there was no other news. So no. So here's the interesting news, and it's a little bit premature, but we'll talk about it anyway. I used to work for a company up until, so as you may be aware, I changed jobs in September, and the company that I work for, Securonics, just raised $1 billion on the market, and as part of that, they are buying out my shares, which is a very nice situation. I was ready to sit on these for a while. I'd like to sit on some of them for a while longer. There are tax advantages as well as a investment opportunity. But this is going to take care of my kids' tuition. Yeah, I'm talking about a preschooler's tuition, I know. But anyway, I'm not going to have to worry it. We're going to stick that in a money market, keep it safe, and that'll take care of those bills we never want that to be in jeopardy. We're going to do some upgrades to the house. There will be an EV side to this, in that I'm likely to have my roof redone. That's how exciting I am. But when I have the roof redone, I will also have the solar system upgraded. I'm actually going to pay, one of the things I intend to do is pay off early my existing solar loan, my solar mortgage, whatever you want to call it. I got another couple of years on it, but I'm going to pay it off. And then I'm going to the plan is get a bigger inverter, repurpose the panels we have with some new panels and have a bigger system and make the house 100% self. Now I will be still connected to PG&E, but between the panels and some batteries, and I will be using batteries and not using an F-150, we will have the house. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because we have a couple of things in flight. We might still move at some point. We would like our kid to go to better, closer schools. My kid going to a private school is one thing. Sorry, public education should be fantastic, but it's not on my side of town. Property taxes dictate how good your school will be. I have low property taxes, so I either move house or move state or pay for private school. The money is, but there's only one pot of money, so you buy the outcome you want. That's why I look like I do, because I work so bloody hard. But yeah, we're going to plan to make the house self-sufficient, and then again, this is to give us options, either because we're going to keep living here, or because a house with a new roof has better value anyway. And why, living where we are up in the hills, mitigation risk, it's just a cost that I'll pass on to the next people. But it needs to be done, and it should be done, and so we're going to do it. And then here's the exciting thing. And so I'll talk about this for a few seconds, and then Joe will start podcast number 2. I'm going to pay off my ID4. Well, actually, I might not. I got to work on that one. I'll look at the cost of the money. I might not need to, but I will be buying another EV this year. And the reasons I'm going to be doing it is because if I do it next year, I won't qualify for the rebates because I'll have made too much money. But at this point, they use last year's return, not this year's return. So, is that a good thing, John? No. Does that fit with your slightly left-wing tendencies? No. Are you a hypocrite? Fuck yes. For $7,500, I will. Well, all right. There's a limit for what I'll do for $7,500. I'm not going to pleasure Joe in any weird way. But yeah, I can live with myself. I can live with myself on this one. The reason I mention this is because I'm like, okay, you get rid of the wife's, my wife is really happy with my ID4. She uses it all the time. $5 gas. I can tell you right now, gas prices aren't going to fall for a significant period of time, because the market is going to be really constrained. The irony is, if prices do go down, it's also because the world will be in a inflation-driven recession, which is not a good place to be. My wife would like an SUV. My wife would like an electric XC 90. Let's be clear about this. That's the kind of space she wants. We know the ID6 isn't going to appear here anytime soon. We know the Volkswagen bus isn't going to arrive here this year. So then the question is, well, what is the biggest, it's a horrible thing to say, but the biggest SUV that's going to be available this year? It's the BMW iX. And I was so ready. I looked at it and I thought, yeah, she'd wanted an X5. When we got the XC40, XC60 rather, she'd actually wanted an X5. But I was specific that we had to get, they changed the transmission system and it had to be, you know, a second hand with the new transmission system. And it was just a bit out of our budget. The lease returns that were available were very highly optioned, and the value wasn't there. Joe, have you seen the iX?
Yep, in person at the Chicago Auto Show.
Have you seen the iX trunk?
Yeah.
People, I know we don't usually show, on the next episode is all going to be shared screen, but let me show you what an abortion looks like. And I did use the word, but it's warranted. Let me find. I'm going to see if somebody's iX5 trunk. Let's see if somebody's posted an image. Come on, Google Photos, image. It's not called an iX5, it's just called an iX, right?
It's just the iX, yeah.
BMW iX trunk. Well, there we go. Okay. Let me share my screen. This, let me zoom in on it. I want you to see this graphically. This is the trunk. So what they did, Joe, have you seen this in real life?
Yeah, you just mean like the profile of the car in the back? How
the trunk is, let's get an iX5. Let's get a normal BMW iX trunk. So the back is.
Or you already have the iX, you need the X5 is what you're saying, right?
No. Let's just get, you know, BMW iX rear. Let's see if we can get a picture of the rear. Because, oh, Joe, it's a good looking car. It's a good looking car. There we go. Let's get a nice little picture. Okay, let's blow that up. Thank you, Car Magazine UK. There it is. Okay. And she's a beauty. Look at that. Look at that. Strong, kind of, you know, strong but feminine hindquarter. But these taillights are built into the trunk. Normally, if you look at any other vehicle, the taillights, can you see my mouse on screen, Joe?
Yep.
Yeah. The taillights would go like this. And that's why you get kind of a tongue. Okay, so the lights are in the inside of my head, the lights are there. And so when the tailgate comes up, look at me using American words, tailgate. When that comes up, the lights stay in place. But that's not what they did. They said, no, it's so beautiful and so good looking. We don't want to compromise. So they created this, so that there are extra lights here and here that are on. And what they've done is they have now made a car that is wider than an X5, smaller than an X5 on the inside. They have reverse TARDISed a thing with no transmission tunnel. Yes, This is special, and so it cuts in, and so now, because of that, it suddenly becomes. So Joe, here's the thing: this car is bigger than ours, than the ID4, and has less room in the back because
Hard
of
to believe.
that.
Yeah.
Are they removable? No, they're not trim pieces. In fact, there is a tiny pocket here and a tiny pocket here, and all this is filled in. It's not trim that's removable. It's just a boxy box. I love that vehicle. The inside is, I mean, let's you know, this is, I love the interior. You know, even the lowest option, and don't get me wrong, it's $80,000 worth of car starting for the iX40, but yeah, that's not happening. So I find myself looking at, if we're going to do this, and just bear in mind, we're only doing this because of the rebates that are going to be available. Porsche Turismo. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the likelihood, I really want, and Joe, you know this, I want that GT. I want that Audi GT. It was so beautiful. I fell in love with it. I knew that was the car, but it just doesn't have the practical trunk space that we need. And I'm not saying that, by the way, the Porsche Taycan is not fantastic, but between that and the ID4, and we're still going to have the minivan and our white van because, you know, first world problems. But anyway, that's what's going on. Joe, let's talk about, well, before we go and start podcast number 2. So you're back from Ohio.
Omaha, you mean? Yeah.
Omaha.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, and did you get your thing in time? Did it work?
I did. I had a little bit of trouble setting it up the first time, but once I got it connected, it worked pretty well. Have you ever encountered that it kind of loses connection with the phone,
Yeah.
and then it's a little bit difficult to reconnect?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to make sure. And so, let's tell what people are talking about. So recently on my trip, and I talked about it in the last podcast, and I showed it on, if you go to my channel, Regularly Be Dead, I showed it, it was shot with the phone. I used a Better Route Planner, the app, in conjunction with a V-Gate Bluetooth BLE, that's important, BLE dongle. And that gives me real-time GPS, you know, where I'm going, sat nav, but it shows on screen both the current state of charge of the vehicle, but also the predicted state of charge at the destination or waypoint, which might be a charger. And it's not 100% because the app is talking directly, and it's kind of weird. The app is talking to the BLE, not talking to the actual dongle. It's the same thing, but they're different. And so, Joe, if anyone else has these issues, what's important is you do not pair the Bluetooth.
Right.
And it has
Correct.
2 identifications. It has an Android one and an iOS one. And I don't know the reason why, and I don't care. You do not pair the damn thing, because if you pair it, it goes nuts. What you do is, once you've set up the vehicle, you then hit the create a route. The first time you create a route, then you go push the screen up and click on the, I can't remember what it says now. Connect. Oh, ODB
Yeah, it's a little
connection.
blue bar. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
just it's the blue bars below it is the one it's blue writing, but not blue bar. It's the one above it. ODB connection. You hit that, and then it will scan for the specific BLE. This is Bluetooth Low Energy, and it doesn't make a connection. It just listens to the data. And yeah, Joe, I had the same issue a couple of times, and the cure is actually really simple. You pull it out, turn the car on. I don't say you have to, but I found it to be more, move back the car up about a foot, just so that, you know, the drivetrain engages. It's not, the car's not just on, but it's on. Turn the car off, plug it in, turn it back on, and then do the scan again within a Better Route Planner, and it finds it. But so it didn't work the first time, but then you got it working. Now you only had what, 2 stops on your route, but how did it feel?
Yeah, it was nice to get the the battery data of what the temperature was when charging. I was happy to see that, as well as I really could pull into the chargers at a much lower state of charge because I knew what my predicted arrival time was consistently as I'm going down the road. So I was able to time that much better. Consistently was arriving with 2 to 3%. And then on the way out there, I didn't encounter any slow charging because I was using a 70 kilowatt charge point unit for the first charge. So by the time I got to the second charge, the battery was roasty toasty. On the way home, the unit was giving me fuss when I was at my first charger, but I was still pulling 100 kilowatts. So I just figured there might have been, a little connection issue, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just, so again, I have questions on this one, but so let me ask my questions now, and then I'll ask them again because I don't want to forget them. First of all, on the charging, you did actually hit peak charge because you and I were speaking. You were at the one at the outlets. Where the hell was that?
Williamsburg, Iowa. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Joe and I happened to be talking while he was charging at Williamsburg, Ohio. Now, I hit a maximum of 93 there, but that was in the middle of summer. It was blazing hot, and the fact it was 93 was interesting because that's the same issue we get in parts of California on the non-power pack things, the kind of a restriction that falls. It's never been explained, but it's a consistent restriction. But you did hit peaks of 125 somewhere, right?
Yep. Yeah, at Williamsburg and Waukee, Iowa, and Council Bluffs, Iowa. I hit all three of those. Just that way I got to my destination with a pretty full battery.
The Walmart with the Cracker Barrel. Yes.
Yeah. Everyone I arrived to, the battery temp was right around 76 degrees-ish. It was cold and snowing. Then it would ride its way up to like about 110, and then it would, by then the battery, it was already throttling down speed with the charging curve.
Interesting. So what, and then the reason why you were only getting 70 is because you stopped at the I-80 Iowa truck stop, right?
Yep. But the reason we had even gotten to this point, right, that last time I talked with you, I felt like there was definitely some temperature issues that I was encountering on my first charge of any time I was going away. So I was hoping to get a little more data on that, but on the way home, it was 60 degrees in Omaha when I was leaving. So, the battery was much warmer. It was much warmer conditions, so I couldn't get the test results I was looking for.
Yeah, and so my reason for mentioning this is when I drove back from Southern California a couple of weeks ago, it was actually just above freezing. I know even in California and right on the coast, but I had no issues, and I was surprised by that. It ran at full speed, 125. Did we stop before Pismo? No, we just went to Pismo. It was absolutely fine, but we'd also been running the car we'd had a break, but it's an interesting situation. More data required. I don't think the way the weather's turned, it's going to be 80 in the next couple of days. I don't think I'm going to be doing any cold weather testing. My wife is going out of town. So just between you, me, and our listener, Joe, I might do some cold weather testing on Saturday. Might. My wife's out of town. I may not be performing on Saturday night. I haven't heard back from the guy yet. And that's the one that requires me to travel up to Napa. But I am tempted. There's still some snow. I might take the kid up to the Sierras. Now, of course, it's just to take her snow tubing, but it will also cool the battery. So we made for a good video. We did it once before. I didn't shoot a video at the time because I was traveling with my wife and she can't stand that stuff. She's fine with it now, but she actually said she wished I did a better video. Oh yeah, I did actually post a video, people, on Regular EV Dad of the Pasadena trip, just so you can see. It was kind of a guerrilla thing with the phone, but it was interesting nonetheless. Joe, are we going to see a video about Ohio?
No, I didn't film anything on this trip. I do actually have, I shot a trip when I went out there back in October. I still haven't edited that yet. It's been pushed way down in the queue. So I guess there will be a road trip to Omaha sometime in the future.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, longer than I planned, isn't it always the same thing? If you, I'm Regular EV Dad. You'll find me at regularevdad.com. You'll find me on the Regular EV Dad YouTube channel. Joe is at JKEV on YouTube and produces much more content than I do on any given day. If you haven't, please subscribe. And oh, I said one last thing. We're going to start using some of the functions available in Spotify in terms of questions. If you do have a question and you're on Spotify, feel free to hit that button. We'll try and answer it next time we see you, which will be in about a week and so. And Joe and I are going to very quickly talk about that because, like I said, next week I'm talking about cybersecurity at a renewable energy conference. So I got to work around that one. But for me, goodbye.
Take care.
And from him, have fun.